The most interesting news this year has been not from has come from not the presidential campaign or events in Europe or events in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world. The most important thing this year that came event this year, the most important event this year um, came from Santa Barbara on on May 19th. It was an event put on by members of the Giving Pledge, sponsored by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. This is a group of people. There's 81 now who are billionaires who are committed to giving away half of their wealth, um, and they met to figure out ways to do that. It's not an easy thing. I mean, last year when they got together, they chatted about how they've thrown away money. It wasn't effective, and they wanted to have more impact. They called it impacting. Um, and this year they refined that to say that they wanted impact investing. Now, impact investing is defined as something that has impact on is investments in technologies that also have the greatest good. So they presented an interesting question: what technology would have the greatest impact on the 21st century? Something in the same way as, say, oil or electricity or the internal combustion engine or the electrical motor in the early 20th century, or the personal computer or computer chips or the internet in late in the 20th century. What invention now would have the greatest impact? The interesting thing is that Bill Gates has already answered this question. He said so repeatedly since the TED conference in 2010. At that time, he said his greatest wish was for a environmentally safe source of energy that was, at that time he said, one half the cost of coal. He since said sometimes a quarter. Anyway, so significantly cheaper than coal that's environmentally friendly. Since then, he's refined it to say that this source will not come from wind or solar. It will come from nuclear energy. So, what nuclear energy is talking about? Well, the interesting thing is that that question has also been answered as well. It was answered most recently in 2005 by the father of the H-bomb. Edward Teller, in his last big papers, mentioned that talks explicitly about thorium reactors. These are LFTR, liquid fluoride thorium reactors. He said this. He wrote his paper. Said this is the answer. Liquid fluoride thorium reactors actually got their start back in the 1960s. There's actually a prototype done by a guy by the name of Alvin Weinberg. He was the head of the Oak Ridge Laboratories at the time, in the late 60s, early 70s. The interesting thing is that he had the original patents on the current nuclear designs that are, nuclear reactors provide maybe 10% of American electrical production. These reactors have been around since the 50s. These are 60s, and they're old, they're ancient designs. And Alvin Weinberg was held one of the original patents on them. Well, interestingly, he also developed nuclear fluoride, um, liquid fluoride thorium reactors. He tested them side by side. He tested the liquid fluoride thorium reactors. He had some prototype designs in the late 60s, and he tested those side by side with light water reactors, and he found that the liquid fluoride thorium reactors were orders of magnitude safer and much cheaper to operate than the light water reactors. They were internally safe to operate, unlike the light water reactors. There's immense amounts um, of thorium around, much more than uranium. For that matter, um, they couldn't be converted to a nuclear weapon. This is a problem at the time, because at the time they wanted nuclear reactors that were dual use, um, and the fluorine reactors were not dual use. They couldn't be used. They couldn't be used to make weapons grade uranium, whereas light water reactors can be. So they were discontinued, and that answers the question: why is it? Why is it if these things are so great, um, they couldn't be used? They weren't. They weren't. We don't have now liquid fluoride reactors. They were just. Um, they were not dual use.